Deontay's, I'm watching the Biden-Trump debate. I already got like 20% of the way through it, and Trump is slouching, destroying, or eradicating, and irking ice cream on bald bitch Biden. It's absolutely hilarious. And I wanted to watch the rest of it while I eat my food, because I barely even have time anymore because I work 40 hours a day under president's economy. You have to have 9 jobs that pay you 12 cents on the fucking... And then 12 cents... Maestro's having a Biden moment here. Like, damn. He's already had like 12 of those on stage. Holy fuck. Dude, it's hilarious. Anyway, we're going to watch it.
We have an ocean separating us. The European nations.
So this is on Ukraine and the Russia, Ukraine, and then Israel, Hamas. And he's saying how insane. Biden has no clue what's going on. He's staring into thin air, just wondering if there's a ghost in front of him. Or wondering if his triple chin is about to slap him in the face.
Together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all, you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? Get out of NATO.
NATO's garbage.
We have, our strength lies in our alliances as well.
The way Trump just did that.
But were we ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO?
Biden is so dumb. He literally said that if Putin takes Ukraine, then Putin's going to go into Poland and other NATO countries. He's so dumb. Like, Putin is never going to do that, because then he actually starts World War III and gets eradicated. Putin is not going to do that.
We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation.
Trump is brewing. Whenever he does this, he's brewing up some big damn judge.
The whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations, because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia? At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened?
That's legendary. They paid.
Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump.
Whenever Trump's making a point, they always cut him off. Cuck Tapper is so annoying, man. It's actually so annoying. I need to get a pee me water here. One second. I wasn't even that hungry to eat a grilled cheese, but I haven't eaten all day, so
I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral
Well, they
votes.
weren't.
As president, you swore an oath to, quote,
They walked around the Capitol. They did not try to stop the swearing of votes. Holy shit.
preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you
He said protest peacefully. That doesn't mean cause a riot. And then they try to pretend that there's a bunch of people who died on that day when people had a heart attack. The cop had a heart attack.
violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th.
Go on.
On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever.
I like how Trump's doing that.
On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible.
Should have said this coward.
Including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
Yeah.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you...
That was good. He turned it around on Biden there.
...constitutional oath through your actions and...
Because the Yankees are always going against him.
And worry that...
This January 6th thing is such bullshit.
I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, you can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president
Not true.
and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well.
Not true.
To do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to...
Yeah, because they're putting people in jail for walking in the Capitol on a guided tour where the cops literally let them in. So yeah, he's going to pardon the people that got put in there for 25 years for walking around the Capitol where they didn't even break in. The cops literally let them in on a guided tour and they can be seen walking around with the policeman. Yeah, so he's going to pardon those people. That's a good thing. Insane. While the FBI agent was literally an FBI, the ones who let them in the first place.
Single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
This guy just straight up...
done to some people.
Dude, this guy just lied. Biden just lies. He goes, oh yeah, Trump said there's going to be a bloodbath. Trump was talking about an economic bloodbath, talking about cars, the car industry. And this guy straight up Biden just lies about everything. It's crazy. Like, he just straight up lies to everyone.
That are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other...
And then you look at Black Lives Matter, the organization. They burned every fucking city across America. That was completely fine to do, apparently.
The cities. You go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there, with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of...
Is he in a mask? This right here looks like a mask. I wouldn't be surprised. He probably has his wife and his fucking... Well, then she'd be able to speak somewhat coherently. So
Seattle, I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is...
he should be a convicted one.
What he's telling you is...
He should have said you should have been a convicted felon, though. But I guess his mic's off, right? So I don't know if he can. He should have said that to Biden. He shouldn't even... he should have said you should be a convicted felon.
Not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, turned over desks, turned them over statues.
And he needs to go out after Biden, how his son is doing cocaine in the White House, how he took all the bribes, how he should be convicted, and how he then went off after his political opponent.
The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, the debates we had first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by.
He literally said he denounced them.
Will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month.
Look at what they try to do to Trump. Biden says some shit, they don't even give him a chance to respond, and this fucking idiot just tries to say something about his convicted felon.
You said if re-elected,
trumped up charges,
you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon.
Yes!
At a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous...
And then he needs to say, my charges were... He needs to explain how his charges were completely fabricated. But I guess maybe he shouldn't go on to all that.
Other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution.
Trump doesn't give a fuck
Against any American just because you're president is wrong.
That's not what he said at all. What the fuck? He literally said my retribution is my success. And now Biden is saying that he's seeking retribution against Americans. The fuck?
It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history.
Dude, you literally tried to jail your political opponent because you can't speak a complete sentence.
That before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public?
What?
For doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star, on the night while your wife was pregnant. I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give your minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official at DOJ into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken hundreds.
Biden is getting so fucking pissed right now. Because he knows he's getting cremated right now. Live on stage, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam, and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans...
Dude, he's looking around so clueless. He actually has no idea where he is. He probably thinks he's in his nightgown and his fucking boudet. Holy
likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes.
The more they know, they want to vote for Trump.
Know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. They spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? And this is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. Good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
Everything was just a lie right there.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden?
And debunk. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40
Mike Pence is a joke.
Top
He's a commie.
cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the...
They don't ever give Trump a chance to respond. Holy fuck. Well, Trump is still fucking just decimating himself. Whatever. Yeah, the anchors are being unfair, but in a more like underhanded way, where you can't really tell because they're asking questions, letting Biden respond, and then not Trump. It's annoying. But
Just among these corporate
who are disappointed that you haven't dropped to a record low under your presidency. Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one.
no, they don't. That's why Trump is getting the biggest black vote of all time. Get fucked, Biden. BRB 1 mini alt. Actually, I'll probably. Should I be too many alts? It's fine.
The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number 2.
Yeah, if you want me,
started.
Yeah, they started for one day and then they had to close the next day. If that's what you mean by started.
Unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long time. Number 3, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home, so they can get started.
I'm sure that will help us when home prices are $450,000 for a fucking piece of bread stacked together, Biden, with a 8% interest rate.
Engaged in nursing, and anything having to do with volunteerism. If they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 50% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who were in vulnerable communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they had health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that there are $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing anything, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's
It's actually good that
climate
they let him
initiatives,
talk because
but
he's so
will you
stupid.
take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
There's no
Let me just go
plan.
back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state
Yep.
is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name. And he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs. And it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O.
No, he needs to say the thing about the pipeline, that we're not energy independent anymore.
We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. We passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges, I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have those.
It's funny how they never mention white people, though. Like, we're doing terrible, too. Everyone's doing bad. Like, I literally can't survive. I'm working I'm doing real estate, I'm trying to sell internet, I'm streaming on Twitch, and I'm doing electricity sales. Like, just to barely survive.
They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing what any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord, I immediately joined.
They were terrible.
Because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all.
Have you heard about what Biden did? Oh yeah, he said it was great, and they didn't get anybody killed. You literally got 13 of our service members killed and like 40 wounded, and everyone is stuck in Afghanistan and can't leave. Like what?
Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact...
He should have said the thing about where Trump goes, well, these kids want to go to T-ball anymore? Well, I guess they can't because the illegals are camping out on the field.
We ones of consequence. We're not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything we're not able to, the United States can't get its pollution under control? One of the largest polluters in the world, number one.
Dude, if Trump wins, I can refinance my loan when interest rates go down, and I can survive, I can live, I can exist, I can leave my house. Not that I'd want to anyway, why do I want to leave? But, the sunlight radiates off my skin through all eternity once I go in the sun one time, but...
It's significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps where thousands of young people will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements that cause pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're gonna, I'm proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy
This is such a lie.
their share by increasing from 1%.
The thing is, Social Security can't go on. People 50 and below, we can't keep Social Security going. But can't say that if people are not going to vote for you. Dumb. What was I going to say? Son of a bitch. Another Biden moment. I know. Like, you cannot have Social Security anymore. Now, I'm never going to get Social Security. I'm never going to get anything. But I'm paying all these useless taxes. Like, think about it. I get 50% of my money taken out when I make a sale. You have to do... I am paying to be part of a brokerage, right? So I pay every month to be part of a brokerage. Then I pay 50% on top of it if I make a sale. And they take 50%. and then the government takes 50% of that money. This is why we need huge tax cuts.
Percent beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security?
It's great because they keep making Biden talk, and he sounds like the biggest buffoon, dunce cap wearing inbred mole rat to ever exist.
Solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent, but the biggest thing will do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare, both times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way,
You can't even protect yourself, Biden. You're the senior.
Today than ever before.
President.
And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people,
Biden is below the 0 CR. He didn't even get a win. He's the biggest disgrace to ever live.
People would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance.
This pamphlet is more sentient than President.
And by the way, the other thing is,
Donate to the Maestro for a Better Life.
Talk about education for black.
We all know President is a Flappy Bird Boomy. Ah, shit.
The amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 towards the tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
I didn't get that.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace.
He needs to keep bringing up how his son's a criminal and that he's a criminal and all the criminal shit that he's done.
But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing. And it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before.
Yeah.
By the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world.
What?
The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world.
How come when I go to the store?
In the world.
Hey, President, I give a negative guppy. How come when I go to the store under Trumpy Baba, a 24-pack of soda was $2.30. Now it's $9. How come when I go to the store, Bacon is $12? Of course, it's the fancy kind. But under Trumpy Baba, it was like $2.99. How come when I go to the store, steak is $45? And under Trumpy Baba, it was like $19. Like, how come when I go get gas, it takes me $80 to fill up? Under Trump, I drove all the way to you, Mike. I drove to Trump when Corona hit, and I only spent I had $300, my last $300, and I drove all the way to Texas. And I was like, I hope this $300. I was praying the $300 gets me to Texas. Praying. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do if this $300 doesn't get me to Texas. I used $40 to get to Texas in gas. I put $15 in my tank. It started squirting out. That's how low gas prices were. I thought my car was going to spontaneously combust because I had gas oil on the outside of my car. I was like, I guess I'll save the gas on the outside of my car for later because I have so much fucking gas.
By the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, Those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession. And
We're in a recession right now. They changed the definition of a recession because you're president.
159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child for many
Biden won't
families.
acknowledge his own
The cost of
grandson,
child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for
He should fire himself.
18 million people?
Fire.
Many from prisons?
What he needs to say is, you need to fire yourself. You should resign. That's what he needs to say.
Many from mental institutions. Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think, we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We are the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing.
Did he just say that with a...
We're the finest military. In the history of the world. The finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody.
Everyone did.
Number 2.
That's why we're about on the brink of World War III. Do you... It's like, don't believe anything you hear or see. Listen to Joe Biden lie to you.
The idea that we're talking about worst presidents, I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians. They've had meetings. And
They're all Democrats.
The worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with
he needs to talk about how...
Virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have...
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that do...
He needs to say everything about how under him we were energy independent, and that everything starts from there. If we're energy independent, then everything else stems from that. He needs to say it.
Because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $20,000.
He literally did the biggest tax cuts. How did he increase? Like, he just says things that are blatantly false. Even right after they said that he did the biggest tax cuts. Like,
I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in
Biden, we're eating dirt because of you, you worthless scum.
food and all the things that are very important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion.
I was doing the best ever under Trump.
Which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you,
$100
President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year.
They're dying because the border is open.
Fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans?
They're dying because the border is open. Close the border. Close the fucking border. It's that simple. It's actually insane. Anyone else going to Pesru? I do love a Peruvian Vicks. The big yes.
Of addiction.
The big
or struggling to get
sumptuous,
the treatment they need.
juicy, scrumptious.
We now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China.
He's so pissed.
He gets paid by China.
He called him this guy. Look at his face.
Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with it or something.
Yep.
But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come. But he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well in addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough, and it was the drugs pouring across the border were.
He should talk about
started to increase.
He should talk about how Biden locked everybody in their homes for 3 years straight. Didn't let people. I couldn't even go to the hospital. I had used really bad stomach issues. I couldn't even go to they wouldn't even let me in the emergency room. There wasn't a single person in the emergency room. They wouldn't even let me in the emergency room because they thought I might have corona. A common cold is more scary than corona. Okay? I would never put that poison in my body, not a chance. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. What Biden did with our ruined people's youths. You ruined everyone's lives. That's why I can't get donations. You useless presidentes probably want to donate me your last dollar. You don't even have a last dollar.
We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs.
How would you not let illegal coyotes come across the border and smuggle women across the border? How about that one?
And when we had that deal done, he went and called his Republican colleagues and said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working.
No, you're not. You get paid by China.
The technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly, as soon as I take office, before I take office. I said by literally, as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where he paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Imagine Biden's Secret Service fought Trump's Secret Service. And then Trump and Biden got into a fight on stage. Holy fuck. The maestro is immune to all disease, buddy.
Spent half my career being criticized.
Useless? You spent your entire career being useless, leeching off the American public while you enrich yourself, you commie scum.
Person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger.
You've been in the thing for 60 years, and you try to ruin everyone's life.
Less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States, and guess what? Those fabs, they call them, to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Like, name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities.
Russia takes advantage of us. China takes advantage of us. Destroys us. Every country in the Middle East. Iran takes advantage of us. You give Iran $85 billion worth of equipment. 70,000 rifles. What? 2,500 armored tanks? Yeah, Biden, you're doing a great job.
We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he cuddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests.
It's not about age. It's about fucking competence. Joe Biden is a degenerate and useless moron with a negative IQ and his brain is turned into goop. Trump is still the same guy he was 40 years ago. Makes no sense.
Both of them, as you know.
And Biden was always stupid. Biden's IQ is not, there's no way it's above a 60, and now it's obviously below 0. Trump is like, has 160 IQ.
We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. I go through the first 5 questions. I couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams.
He knows it's true. Dude, does he have eyes? Why does he do this? What is this? I've never seen somebody's eye do this. This is not normal. There's got to be something like...
And, you know...
His eye is taped on.
Wherever we may have wood, that...
No way, it's 160. Yeah, Trump probably has like 170 IQ. That's true.
Very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior. 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape.
You just say he falls down every time he walks. He does this. Shakes hands with the air.
I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200.
If he's 6'4" and 235 pounds, that's a fine weight. That's would be like normal. That or even skinny.
Well, anyway, anyway. Just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap.
You can't even drive. You wouldn't be able to drive an automobile, let alone a golf club. You can't even walk. You can't chew. Your eyes are caving in on themselves. You don't have eyelids.
And I was vice president, down to a 6.
Biden. Ice cream? This is the... This way. Oh! I tripped over a sandbag!
But by the way, I told you before,
Oh wait, there's no sandbag there. I mean,
play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap. 8 But I have, you know,
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay,
Let's
you know,
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to-
They're arguing over golf. Dude. Trump needs to destroy him. Or Trump needs to stop arguing on golf and say you literally fall when you walk.
Let's not act like children.
You
to
are
a
a child.
specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight
Dude, Trump had to be the one to say let's not act like children. But he should have just cremated him.
that once
Fuck.
all legal challenges have been
He had a chance to cremate Biden right there, but I guess he doesn't need to because all he needs to do is act presidential and he beats Biden, so that's fine.
exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want.
Does that sentence make any sense?
An attack on one is attack on all, a required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful peace. Because of
Gavin Newsom? I hope not.
Because of the American people. They're capable.
I want him to go up against Biden because there's 0%. Even if they cheat an insane amount, Trump's going to destroy him.
We need it. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because of our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin
Even
go
when
ahead
they
and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden.
They didn't take any from Trump,
They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
if it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see.
Yeah,
You're a
free
whiner.
cheese.
When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about something.
Oh, wait. Was Trump winning at the beginning of the night in huge numbers, and then in the middle of the night, the vote count stopped, and then in the morning, Biden was barely winning in all the swing states? I wonder what could have happened. Couldn't have been any cheating there.
All this representation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential.
I wish Trump crushed Biden in that one statement, because he was destroying Biden, but then Biden tried to hit him really low, and Trump needed to go lower and destroy him. He didn't need to be presidential there. Trump needed to destroy him in that moment. God damn it! But he's still winning, of course, which is good. But son of a bitch. I'll watch the rest by myself because I like to take poos while doing it.